Welcome to Epic Recovery, where we embark on the transformative journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Join us as we unlock the secrets to genuine recovery, embracing our infinite possibilities, and forging an extraordinary life filled with purpose and profound meaning. Epic Recovery starts now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Epic Recovery. I am so excited to do this episode. I've been thinking about it a lot since my last one because I get to talk about one of my favorite aspects of recovery today, and that is getting in touch with your spiritual self. Now, when I entered recovery, and I started going to 12-step meetings, and that was the main way that I started my journey of sobriety. And they talked about finding a higher power, and God was mentioned all the time. And it really discouraged me. I'm not going to say it made me angry. It didn't make me angry. It just discouraged me. I'm like, it's a God program. Are they going to start like preaching to me and telling me to believe in Jesus? And what is this going to be about? And they did the Lord's Prayer at the end and serenity prayer. And it kind of turned me off. But then I started talking to people about it, and they were talking about finding a higher power, something greater than you. And what I've learned over time is that for a long time, cocaine and marijuana and alcohol, those were my higher powers. I mean, they dictated when I woke up, when I went to bed, when I hung out with people, when I went to work, when I went to school, how well I did in school, which wasn't very well. I got expelled twice. So I knew what higher powers were because I had one in my life that was extremely destructive. And I started exploring what this higher power thing was. And I went and found a sponsor, and I was talking to him about it. And he said, you know what? Forget about the whole God thing. Look for something greater than you. How about the ocean? And I live, I'm back in San Diego now, and I got sober here in San Diego 40 years ago. And he said, what about the ocean? Is that a power greater than you? I'm like, I guess. He said, of course it is. Can you go to the beach and stop a wave? I was like, no. He said, can you walk to the beach and tell it to get warmer? Tell the ocean to be warmer? I'm like, no. He said, and the ocean was here long before you were here. It's going to be here long after you're gone. Isn't that a power greater than you? I was like, yeah, good point. He said, can you create a tree? I'm like, well, I can plant a seed. No, create a tree right here. Make the tree happen. I was like, no. So nature is a power greater than you. And all of a sudden it made sense. It didn't have to be God. It didn't have to be anything other than something greater than me. And I've realized now pretty much everything is a power greater than me. But at the beginning, I didn't see that. And one of the things I did, I went to my rabbi. It was someone that, I'd known him for years. I had been to a lot of his services. And I went to him and I said, I could use some help with something. I said, I am a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I'm in recovery now. And they want me to believe in a higher power. And I'm struggling with that. And I'm not really exactly sure how to do it. I mean, maybe I need to find God, but I don't know. And this is a man who knew nothing about addiction. This is someone who escaped the Nazis back in World War II. In fact, his story is, I love this story. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but he and his brother were hiding from the Nazis, and they were hiding in this shed. And they were hungry. They hadn't eaten in a couple of days. And they finally said, you know what, we have to go get something to eat. And the brother said, okay, when we leave here, I'm going to go left, you're going to go right. And I'm not sure which one it actually was, to be honest, but they were going to go in different directions. They were going to go get food and then meet back. So they left the shed and they started going in opposite directions. And he started running so he could get to cover. And all of a sudden he heard a gunshot, and he turned around and looked, and his brother had been shot and killed by the Nazis. And he ran, and he kept running, and he found food, and he survived World War II. And he realized it would have been very easy for us to have taken different paths, and for me to be the one that got killed. And he thought, this was God playing a part in this. He wanted me to be here. So he devoted his life to God and became a rabbi. Quite a story, huh? So this is the person that I went to for guidance. He said, knowing nothing about addiction, he said, Randy, why don't you look at it this way? You're looking for a higher power. For now, take God, put him on the shelf over there. Put him over there on the shelf. Oh, do you see the picture right there? That is a picture of me with the rabbi and my counselor, my therapist, when I first got sober. I had a party one day, and I invited both of them, and they both showed up. And I took a picture with the two people that had the most influence in my recovery. So that's why it's in a place of prominence in my office. And he said, you know what? For now, put God on the shelf over there. Don't worry about God. But look inside of yourself. There are two parts to who you are. There's this part that does drugs and destructive, and it hurts yourself and the people around you and the people you love. And there's this other part of you that is good and loving and wants to get better and wants to do good in the world and be successful. And for a long time, the drugs and that part of you, that destructive part of self, has been the higher of the two powers inside of you. And now it's time for you to switch that around and make that loving, caring, giving part of you the higher of the two parts of yourself. Right? Yeah. All of us have those two parts of self. One is full of fear and discouragement and insecurities and ego. And that's what the sobriety thing is about. As long as I don't drink and use, look how cool I am. I have 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 50 years. But that's not what this recovery thing is about. Recovery is about being of service. It's about, am I better today than I was last week, last year? It's not about, hey, look at me, I have 40 years. It's, wow, I have accomplished so much. And what can I do to be of service and help the person who has less than I have? And when I do that, and I really get in touch with, my physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves, and I start raising my self-esteem and taking a look at my character defects, and I make amends to those that I've hurt, whether they know it or not. God, there have been times where I'll say something to someone and it'll bug me, and I'll go back to them and I'll say, hey, I just wanted you to know I'm really sorry about what I said. It didn't come out the right way. That wasn't my intention, and I want to apologize. And they say, oh, I don't even remember that conversation. That has happened so many times. But you know what? I have to clean my side of the street. And when I do that, I fill my cup even more. And that's what the spiritual part of self is all about. I believe that we're given this vessel. And a lot of people, they fill up their vessel and they're like, great, it's full. My vessel is full. Look at me. I have a full vessel. But that's not the point of the vessel. The vessel and what's filling it is a gift to be grateful for, not to be taken for granted. And what I've learned is that when we're of service and we give away that which is in our vessel, it fills back up. And the cool thing is, all of a sudden, the vessel gets bigger. And the more we give away, and the more we're of service to others, and the more we feel gratitude, the bigger the vessel becomes, and the more it just fills to the brim. I got to tell you, man, my vessel today is like the size of a hot tub. And I get in there and I feel like I'm in a spiritual jacuzzi. And it's awesome, beyond words. And you can get there. It didn't start that way. I think when I started, I probably had a Dixie cup and it was half full. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? But this recovery thing takes work. Being sober is still difficult. I do not want to discredit. If the best you can do is just be sober, God bless you, man. I'm glad you're here. I am so glad you found sobriety. But you know what? I wanted more. And I found that the key to it is my spiritual connection. And as I grew spiritually, and I went from the higher of the two parts of self, being that person, to taking God off of the shelf and realizing, and one of the things I like about the 12-step program, it's a God of our own understanding. So God, as I understand God, is different from anybody else's. My God has a wicked sense of humor. Sometimes a little, it's like, dude, really? And I wonder why that happened, but after I step in, I realize why it happened. So my God has a sense of humor. God, as I understand God, wants what's best for me, but will allow me to make mistakes. God will kind of give a sign that says, I wouldn't go over there if I were you. And I'll be like, huh? What are you talking about? And I'll go over there, I'll stumble, I'll fall, and he'll say, what did we learn? And he'll help me up and give me the tools that I need to stand up and move forward. So I have scraped my knees. I have scars from self-will, from doing it my way. But every time God is there smiling and helping and supporting. I believe in a God that loves us unconditionally. I believe in a God that doesn't test me. When people say that God was testing me, God is not testing me. The face of my higher power, of my God, is my grandfather on my mother's side. This was the most loving, caring, giving man to walk the face of this planet. And when he smiled at you, it was like the face of God. So today, when I'm feeling down and I'm feeling discouraged and, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm feeling scared. I picture my grandfather smiling at me and saying, it's going to be okay. Just keep walking. You're going to be all right. So that is the face of God as I understand God. So find someone like that for you and create a God of your own understanding. And when people say, oh, God's testing me, or, God made this happen to that person, I'm like, God doesn't do that. My God, doesn't give people cancer, but God gives people the tools to accept it and heal through it. And if they don't heal, God will love them to the very end. And it's sad, but it's not a God thing. I remember I was early in my sobriety. I was probably, I guess, 2.5 years, 3 years sober. And I had these two people that I knew from the program. I'd say they're friends, but they were acquaintances. I knew them from meetings, and both played a very important part of my life. Mike was the one. I was doing a H&I meeting and going into this adolescent unit and taking a meeting in there every week. And one day Mike came to me and said, hey, you know what? You work really well with these kids. We have a job opening for a program tech. Do you want to get a job here? We'd love to have you on our team. And I was like, what? A job as a counselor, like working in a treatment center? He said, no, it's a program tech. You just make sure that people get to their meetings and you talk to them if they have problems, anything important, you tell their therapist. But yeah, I think you'd be pretty good at that. I'm like, wow, I don't know. So I went and I talked to my sponsor. I'm like, they want me to be a program tech. He's like, no, they want you to apply to be a program tech. But yeah, I think you do a good job. That was the beginning of my career. Mike was the catalyst to make that happen. And I went and applied for a job. And you know what? I'll just tell this story real quick. Yeah, I have some time. So I go in I do the application, I fill it out, past experience. I'm like, I had a job delivering pizza, but I got fired. So, there was only like a 6-month time frame for that job. I was a ticket scalper. I did that for like 6 years, but I don't really have a lot of experience. College, yeah, I was going to college. I'm back in college. I'm doing better now. So I put all that down on the application. I handed it in. They called me for an interview. And I remember the woman took the application and she's reading it and looking at me and reading it and looking at me. She's like, you don't have any experience doing anything like this. Why are you here? And I was like, I don't know, but Mike told me to apply for the program tech job. Oh, Randy, you're the one who brings that meeting in here every Monday, right? I said, yeah. Oh my God, why didn't you tell me? We've been waiting for you to come in here. Of course you're hired. Really? It wasn't the piece of paper. It wasn't my past experience. It wasn't those things that got me my first job. It was me being of service to others. It was my higher power putting me in situations that continued to evolve to the point where I was there and started my career as a counselor. This is why, I was a psych major, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. Now I knew. I wanted to be a counselor. So I finally got my bachelor's degree and went on to get a master's degree in counseling because I wanted to help other people. And the jobs just kept improving and getting better over time. But I will always be grateful to Mike. And one of the first people that I worked with when I was a program tech was a kid named Danny. And Danny was awesome. And I could tell that he really wanted this thing. And Danny and Mike, after Danny got out of treatment and it had been, a year or so, 2 years, Danny and Mike became friends. And they were coming back from a meeting one day and walking to a restaurant, and a drunk driver swerved off the road and hit them and killed them. They killed Danny and Mike. And I went to my sponsor. I said, I can't believe that God did this. Why would God kill Danny and Mike? And my sponsor said, Randy, God didn't kill Danny and Mike. A drunk driver did. Oh, wow. God mourns their loss just like I do. And God gave us all the support we needed to walk through that horrific time. I mean, I went to both funerals and cried. Even now thinking about it, I feel emotional and getting a little teary and choked up because it was a tragedy. And we supported each other. Our community supported each other through that. And even though it was 37, 38 years ago, it's still painful. But God didn't do it. A drunk driver did. And as I went through my recovery and I started reading books, Illusions by Richard Bach was one of my favorites. Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, The Alchemist, Four Agreements. There are so many good books out there that really helped me to see this spiritual part of self, and it evolved and it grew. And as I started to explore more, now I call my higher power or God, I call it the energy of the universe. It's the universe that's out there. It's all this energy that's out there that we can tap into. It's not just one thing. I love, and it's not, this is the way to find God or that's the way to find God. I find that religion and spirituality sometimes work together, but sometimes are very different. If you tell me this is the only way to find God, then that's a religion, that's not spirituality. I love the Native Americans saying, one light, many lampshades. And who are you to tell me that my lampshade is wrong? There are billions of Buddhists, there are billions of Muslims, billions of Christians. All of them are right, whatever it takes for you to find it. I look at that spiritual energy as being like an outlet in the wall. On its own, it does absolutely nothing. It just sits there. But once we find the right way to plug in, we get all the energy we need. It's there for us. So find that way to plug in for you and realize it's going to evolve. Part of recovery, sobriety is stagnant. Sobriety stays the same way. You build the amount of time, but who you are and how you act in the world stays stagnant. Recovery is about always changing and evolving and growing. And I'm at this new place in my spiritual growth right now, where I'm seeing that the beginning of my reality and my being begins with me, that the energy of the universe and the energy within me are one. It's the same thing, that I am not separate. I'm not walking around in the universe. I am the universe. I am a part of that. It's kind of like each cell of the body is an important part of the body. And all of us are different cells in this huge body, and each part matters. You know, when we complain about something happening, it's like saying, my pinky is bad. I need to cut off my pinky. That's ridiculous. It's all part of the same thing. So when we find dissonance somewhere, you know, look for ways that it fits into the whole, and to realize that at some point, the issues are going to resolve themselves. You know, in our history, just the history of the United States in the last only 250 years, look at all the strife and conflict. You know, we can go to the world and look at it that way. But, you know, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the Great Depression, the Spanish flu, the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, AIDS, you know, all these things, World War II, the Nazis, all of these horrific things that have happened have a way of working themselves out, and we become better as a result. And there's a lot going on right now. You know, the election cycle here in the United States, and the war in Ukraine, and what's going on in Israel. And there's so much pain and strife, and it's all about, I want more. I want what I want, and you can't get in my way. That is pure ego. That is pure just stagnation. And that's not what recovery is all about. So being open to differences, being open to, I know that there's going to be a better future ahead of us. And how many times in recovery do we come up against situations where, like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get over this? And you know what? We do. Through the support of others, through the help of tapping into that universal energy, we can overcome anything. If we can get sober, we can do anything. I know that I will never have another situation in my life that will be more difficult than that first year of sobriety. If I can do that, I can do anything. And that's kind of my philosophy on life. So find your spirit, find your spiritual center, find where it is, whether it's the higher power within yourself, whether it's a part of nature, a tree, ocean, whatever it is. There's no wrong way to tap into your spiritual. And I guarantee, I promise you, I don't use that word lightly, but I promise you, if you tap into that spiritual energy and you start growing within it, you're going to be blown away at the gifts that are going to come your way, of what's going to be filled into your vessel. It's going to be amazing. So if there's any way that I can help you, you know, I'm starting up my recovery coaching again. So if I can help you individually to move from a state of sobriety to recovery, if you're finding that there are some walls that you're not sure how to get over, and you think that there's some resonance here, like I might be able to help you, I would love to do that. And I'm only taking a limited amount of clients right now. So if you're interested, get in touch with me, and I'm happy to help you with that. My book is on Amazon, Becoming Your Own BFF. And that's another way to start this journey. But there's some really, really good books out there. If you read mine, it doesn't resonate with you, find another one that does. There's an amazing life out there for you. But yeah, it's trudging the road sometimes. Sometimes it's a walk in the park, but other times it's not. But just keep walking and get support. And get support from a power greater than yourself too. It works. Works if you work it. Doesn't work itself. Let me know what I can do to help. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Leave your comments. Send me an email. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What can I do better? What did you enjoy? Definitely, I love your feedback. So I hope you have an awesome week. I hope you got something out of this, and I will see you again. You take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Epic Recovery. Remember, every obstacle you overcome is a testament to your heroic spirit. Conquer your fears, unlock your potential, and write the epic tale of your life's journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep striving for the extraordinary.